Mr. High in the world of toys, boxings and museums, reviews and reviews. Mr. High in the world of toys, unboxings and museums, reviews and reviews. Mr. High in the world of toys. When I was a kid, I was a big fan of the golden era of the WWE when was called the WWF. My favorite character were played by many characters and wrestling the time. And my guest tonight is from Italy like me. He had match with the best of all time. His first match was with Greg the Hammer Valentine. And he was the first ever Undertaker opponent in the WWE history. So please welcome my guest tonight, the one and the only, Mario Mancini. Mario Mancini. So for the first time ever on my channel, please welcome Mario Mancini. Welcome to the show.
How are you?
I'm really happy to have you on the show because you're a part of the golden era, my favorite era of wrestling. And do you know that the right way to pronounce Mario Mancini is Mario Mancini?
Yes, I do. That's why I was very surprised when you said Mancini. I was waiting for you to say Mancini.
Yes, I say Mancini because the audience of this channel is basically US, worldwide, but basically a lot US. So
Okay.
I was starting immediately to talk about your career. I know that you have match also with this guy. I'm talking about Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig.
Yeah.
Do you have some story about Mr. Perfect? And tell me something about how was work with him.
Kurt was very nice guy. He was one of the boys, if you will. Always always upbeat, good mood, couldn't stand still, great with a yo-yo. Um, just a really nice guy. I mean, I loved working with him because he'd always give me something. In my career, I worked with a lot of guys that didn't want to give me anything, but he was nice enough to give me spots. So he was just a nice kid. He was a nice guy.
That's true. It was really funny behind the scene. He made ribs, some kind of stuff.
Yeah, he was a big ribber. Absolutely. Yeah.
So the next question about your career is about. I know that you have I tell that also. I sang that in the song also that your first ever match was a big match in the WWF because it was against this guy, Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Yeah, it was against the Hammer. It absolutely was.
Tell me
Yeah.
something. What your reaction at the time when you discovered that your first ever match was against a guy, the Hammer, the figure four leg lock, this stuff.
Well, when I trained during my senior year of high school, and I trained with gentlemen named AJ Petrucci, Dave Barbie, and Robbie Parliament. We all ended up going to the WWF, and Tony Altomar trained us. And believe it or not, during our 10 months of training, he told us that we were friends and we were sparring. So when we turned pro, we really had to apply this stuff. Okay. So when I it was July 31st, 1984, 6 weeks after I graduated from high school. I turned 18 June 21st. I turned 18 June 21st, and then July 31st was my first match. So that's when I first met Chief J. Strongbow, another Italian. Um, and he said, go talk to Valentine. And I said, why am I going to talk to him? I'm wrestling him. And Tony Altomar was there. So he kind of glanced over to Tony and he goes, I see. So you're going to go over and talk to Valentine? I said, Mr. Strongbow, is this a title shot? Because he was the Intercontinental Champion at the time. I said, I'm going to beat him. He's not going to get that figure four on me. And he looked back over at Tony Altomar. And Tony Altomar put his arm around me and walked away. And he said, why don't you go and talk to Valentine? I go, I don't want to talk to him. He goes, just go and talk to him. So I went and introduced myself to Greg Valentine. And I said, I'm wrestling you. I didn't say I'm working with you. I said, I'm wrestling you. And he said, how many matches have you had? I said, this is my first one. And he went, oh. And he said, listen, don't keep your leg stiff on that figure four. If you do, you're going to hurt yourself. I'm not going to hurt you. And that's when it hit me that this was predetermined. I was pretty disappointed, but I kept the poker face. And I said, do I get to do anything? And he said, oh, you want a comeback? I said, yeah. He said, I'll give you a comeback. I go, great. What can I do? He said, after you submit to the figure four, get off the canvas and come back to the dressing room. And I went,
Wow.
okay.
What a start for your career.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let's tell me something about something that everybody remembers, because one of the guy that have the longer career, a longer streak, is this guy, the Undertaker. And you actually was the guy that Undertaker started with you on
Yeah.
television matches. So tell
Yeah.
me something about it. How was work with him, and how was in the beginning of this?
This is the biggest question I'm always asked on podcast because I was his debut match. What happened was I worked with him on November 19th, 1990, before Survivor Series. And then he debuted live on Survivor Series, and then they showed my match after the Survivor Series. It was delayed tape. But I worked with him the night before that. And I tell everybody the same thing. I want to tell this big Hollywood dramatic story. It's just not. So it was 1990. Now I'm there 6 years. Now I'm in. I'm all the way in. And I have respect. So Strongbow has now become like a second father to me, second dad. So I look up at the board and it says Undertaker v Mancini. So I go up to Strongbow. I go, hey, Chief, who's the Undertaker? He goes, that guy over there in the black. I go, that guy over there was about 6'11". He goes, I don't know, 6'9", 6'10". I go, what's his name? He said, Mark. I said, okay. So I walk over to him. I go, hey, Mark, how are you? I'm Mario Mancini. I'm working with you. What's your finish? And he goes, a tombstone. I go, what's that? He said, it's a reverse pile driver. I said, oh, I've taken a lot of those from the Magnificent Morocco. He didn't like that. He don't like that. I said, okay. It's routine for me. So I'm like, anything special? And he goes, yeah, I'm going to walk the top rope. So I looked up at him and I said, you, like a tightrope walker? He goes, yeah. He goes, Mario, the thing is, though, I'm going to have you in an arm bar and you need to keep your elbow locked. That's my balance. He goes, if your elbow collapses, I'm going to fall off the top rope. So Strongbow heard that and he came over and he said, Mark, there's a reason why I put you with him. He's one of the best we have. And he said, okay, okay, okay. Now, on the flip side of that, Mr. Allen, he said he was going to clothesline me over the top rope. I'm going to give you a homework assignment that's a lot of fun right now, okay? So he said he's going to clothesline me backwards over the top rope. I'm like, okay. Is that it? He goes, yeah, that's it. I go, okay. He goes, everything else is just routine. I'll call it. I go, okay. So I go and I sit down. Now I'm nervous. And I never get nervous. Never. And I'm like, you know what? I've been here for 6 years. I've never gone over the top rope backwards. Never. Never done that. So now I'm like, man, how am I going to do it? I don't know how to do it. And I can't ask anybody because now I'm a veteran. I'll look stupid. I don't know what to do. So I sat there and I thought, and I thought, and I thought, and I said, if the top rope is level with my waist, I'll just go right over. So now I need you to go back to YouTube and watch the match. Because what happens when he chokes me against the ropes and the referee tells him to break it, he turns and walks toward the referee to scare him. When he does that, I push the top rope down. Nobody catches it until I tell them. No one. I pushed the top rope down. I even took a quick glance behind me to make sure that I wasn't going to land on anything. Like there wasn't some obscure chair or table there. So he looked back from scaring the referee and he clotheslined me and I went like butter right over the top rope. Like
Wow.
butter. But people don't catch it and they get all excited. I see it. I see it. I go like this. Even my feet are almost off the floor. My toes are only touching. So the minute he clotheslined me, I went right over.
Wow.
So um he threw me back in the ring and did his finish. He walked the top rope. I kept my elbow locked. And he did his finish. Um I stayed down until he left. I went back into the dressing room. And he was waiting for me. And he put his hand out and he said, "Thank you so much." I said, "Oh, my pleasure. Good luck." I said, "Wish you all the best luck in the world." And he said, "Thanks. I appreciate it." And I said, that was it.
So your good luck to him works really well in the end.
Well, Howard Finkel inducted me into the 2014 New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Rhode Island. And when Howard Finkel inducted me, he said, when you got to the WWF, you didn't know if you're going to be that big of a star. You had promise, but you didn't know you were going to be that big of a star. He goes, until you looked up at the board and saw that you were working with Mario Mancini. He goes, anybody who's ever taken a trip through Manciniville always shot to the top.
Awesome.
So, I have a saying, you know, I can't draw you a house. I can build you one, though.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And speaking of another great wrestler you work it is this guy. Oh yeah, Macho Man Randy
Listen,
Savage.
you have a doll for everybody I worked with.
Yeah.
Randy Savage, I missed his debut match by one match. Um, I think I was the second guy he worked with. I worked with Randy a lot. I must have did 3 or 4 TVs with him. Then I think he tag teamed with Jesse the Body Ventura, against me and somebody else. Um, the elbow was stiff except for the last one. Um, the last time I worked with him, I was pretty frustrated by then because I knew they weren't going to do anything with me. So I've been around for so long that I didn't care anymore. So the last time I worked with him, I said, Randy, can I talk to you for a minute? Yeah, Mario, what's up? I go, listen, can you hit me with the tricep across my chest? That'd be nice. I said, every single time I've worked with you prior to that, you've knocked the wind right out of me. You knocked the wind right out of me. I go, you overshoot me. I go, you land your upper body on my sternum. I go, hey, can you just get, you go, oh, no, I would never. I go, listen, I'm just asking you to hit me with the tricep. That's all. Can you do that? I'd appreciate it. Yeah, brother, no problem. Yeah, no, no, no. Nice guy. Another question I'm always asked is, what wrestling character was almost the same as they are in real life? And the answer is always Randy Savage. I mean, hey, bro, how you doing? Man? Again, that's the way it was.
So was a quite a character also in real life.
Yes.
And let's talk about another wrestler that you have match. I talk about Brutus Beefcake.
I got a lot of love for Eddie now. I see him at wrestling conventions. He's got a big smile for me. I give him a hug. He's pretty hunched over. Uh, Back then, you know, um, he was one of those guys that he made you feel like a jobber. There were a lot of guys that made you feel like they were just like them, same level. You know, no problem sitting next to Tito Santana having a long conversation with him. No problem going on a road with Tony Atlas, Les Thornton. No problem with a lot of guys. Talking to Barry and Billy, the Demolition. I was their debut match twice. Um, talking to those guys, talking to Arn Anderson about powerlifting and stuff. Eddie, guys like Eddie, Adrian Adonis, they make you feel like, but now when Eddie sees me, it's quite different, which makes me very happy. And I even said to him and Valentine, I said, how come we couldn't be this close back then? How come we couldn't be like this back then? And like, well, Mario, things were different back in the 80s, I said, well, I'm glad we have what we have now, you know? So, um,
And also maybe because the time changed the person, the people.
well,
Everybody is
yeah,
changed by time, by life, no?
Mr. Allen, the closer you get to God, the kinder you become.
Yeah, that's right. You start to think about what happened to me in the afterlife if I continue to be a badass.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
let's talk about a big bad guy. You have some story about Under the
And
Giants?
I, I want to say, it was Chicago. First off, Strongbow told me, do not talk to Andre. Wait until Andre talks to you. Don't ever talk to Andre. So, okay. So I guess I was in the business for like 6 months, and no matter if it was TV or a house show, they'd have a monitor in the dressing room so the guys can watch the matches. And I remember I did like 18 minutes with Iron Mike Sharp in a house show, and I went back in the dressing room, um, and I'm sweating and panting and everything, and I heard her, and I looked over and I went, "Me, boss?" Because he called everybody boss. That's what you called him. Me, I go, "Me, boss." Yeah. I said, "Yeah, boss." He goes, "You work hard in the ring." I said, Thank you so much, boss. Thank you." I I appreciate it. I go, I would never have to wrestle another match in my life. I go, thank you so much for the compliment. I really appreciate it. And after that, we were okay. Um, I want to say it was Chicago. They didn't have any chairs in the dressing room. They had these big, thick benches that were anchored to the wall,
Ah,
and it was like in a horseshoe. Everybody was sitting on it. Andre came sitting next to me. He looked down. I go, boss, boss. Sitting there maybe after 5 minutes, and he's looking at his leg, looking down on his leg, and I looked up, and there was a drip. There was a drip, drip, drip. So I moved over so he can get away from the drip, but he's so damn big. The drip, still hitting him, drip, drip. And I moved over a little more, and I kept moving over a little bit. Well, before you know it, I was like this against the wall, my shoulder. So I said, I tell you what, boss, I'm going to get up and you can slide all the way to the end. And I got up and he went, "Ugh," and I sat my ass back down. I go, on second thought, boss, I think I'm just going to stay right here. And he went, oh, because he just knocked me right off my feet. And I sat back down. Um, Andre didn't mingle with the guys. He didn't mingle. He stayed with Arnold Skolin, playing cards, drinking wine until it was time for him to go out. I was in battle royals with him. I stayed away from him. Scared to death. Would never go anywhere near him.
so it was really powerful in real life.
Ooh, yeah.
Do you think that about Andre behind the character was something sad because giants can live a long life?
Well, I would be sad if I had to sit on the edge of a bathtub and run the shower to go to the bathroom because my rear end can't fit on a toilet.
Yeah,
That sucks.
yeah, absolutely. So let's try to put a smile on our face now.
Next
Tell me
doll.
something about your friends, Paul Roma, and also about your wrestling school with Paul Roma.
I just left Roma. Um, Paul Roma is the closest person to me in the wrestling business. 41 years. Um, we just left Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. I had a show last week, last Sunday. It snowed, so I had to cancel the show. But we had a show this tonight, so we had to combine both shows. So instead of having 6 or 7 matches, we had 9. Um, but Roma and I run Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling in East Haven, Connecticut. We produced Richard Holiday. We produced a Brad Baylor who just signed a WWE ID contract. And we have a couple other guys that the WWE is keeping their eye on. We've been in business in operation since 2014. Um, but I met Roma in '84, and he's the greatest athlete I've ever seen in my life. As a wrestling historian yourself, Mr. Allen, if you can tell me the last guy you saw since Roma or anybody you saw before Roma who can climb to the top rope with no hands.
Wow.
So, uh, you know, um, there's we love each other like brothers. Um, he was definitely not used correctly. He had one of the best bodies in wrestling. Um, I mean, people could talk about Rick Rude and Paul Orndorff and Lex Luger and the Ultimate Warrior, and I get it. You know, those guys had great bodies. And plus, Orndorff was such a nice guy. Such a nice guy. Um, but Roma had one hell of a body.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
you know, he started off like me, just losing by himself. Then they tag teamed him with SD Jones. Then they tag teamed him with Jimmy Powers, and
Yeah,
they
the young
became
stallions, the
the
young
young
stallions.
the young stallions. And then they teamed him with Hercules Hernandez, and they became Power and Glory.
Yeah.
Um, then for some reason Vince separated them, and Roma was going over, and Ray was doing jobs. And Roma went to the office and had an argument with Vince McMahon, and went to the WCW. So, but you know, I've known Roma since 1984, and you know, we get along very well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think it's an odd combination because, well, I'm Mario Mancini, and well, that's Paul Roma. But Roma and I were on the road a lot, and we have a lot of great memories together. A lot of funny memories, and you know, I'm blessed to still be able to look at them today. You know.
Awesome. Also, story also about friendship and also to pass the torch of new guys in your school. I think is really cool. And you
Right.
work with big guys, also huge guys sometimes, including the Ugandan giants Kamala.
Jimmy. Um, I walked into Poughkeepsie, New York for TV, and it's tradition and respect that when you walk into the arena, into the dressing room, that you shake hands with each and every person in that dressing room and say hello. You can get in a lot of trouble if you didn't. And Jimmy had a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken when I went up to him to say hello, and you know, he had the bucket here, and I went to shake his hand, and he went. I go, Jimmy, I'm not gonna eat your chicken, brother. It's okay. I don't want your chicken, man. It's fine. No, no, Mancini, that's not what I'm saying. That's the thing. Um, something I think you'll find very interesting is that I worked with him once, and then I worked with him again, and I had to tell him to hit me harder because I couldn't feel anything. I said, Jimmy, if I can't feel it, I can't sell it. So
Yeah.
when he came down with you, he barely hit you, barely. You barely can feel it. So I said, you got to lay it in. You're not going to kill me. It's okay. Lay it in so I can sell it. You know, very light worker, extremely light worker.
So was too gentle, maybe, in in
Yeah.
his.
Nice
And
guy
now,
though.
and now let's talk about the Million Dollar Man Teddy DiBiase. I think that you have your last match with him. I'm right, probably in the WWE.
No, my last match in the WWF was in April of 1992 with Rick Rude. But
Okay.
but if Ted DiBiase went to Italy for a wrestling convention to sign autographs, and you walked up to Ted DiBiase and you said, Ted, while you were in the WWF, who did you appear with most on TV? He'll look you dead in the face and go, Mario Mancini. I mean, the time finally came when he looked at Pat Patterson and he goes, people are going to think these are repeats. He goes, and he looked back at me and said, Mario, no offense. I go, no, no, none taken. I don't take offense to that. He goes, but this is like the sixth time I've worked with Mancini. He goes, that's I keep working with him. He goes, why don't we just run an angle? And I held my breath,
Wow.
run an angle. But Pat just walked away. You know what I mean? He wasn't hearing that. So uh, again, Ted was a great athlete, and I see Ted at conventions now. In fact, I brought a buddy with me to a convention in New Jersey, and Ted was late, and he was wheeling by my table, and my friend was just in awe because he's buzzing by my table. I go, I know you're not going to walk by me like that, and he turned his head, and he dropped the handle of his suitcase, and he came and leaned over my table and grabbed me. You know what I mean? My friend's sitting there going. So he goes, "How you doing, kid? Kid, I'm 58 years old. I'll always be that way to these guys. You know, how you doing?" I go, "Ted." Yeah, Ted was a good guy. Still is.
Also, this story about the ankle was also a big acknowledge to you for your work. I think have this idea. Uh, do you have some story behind the scene about the real boss of the WWF, Vince McMahon?
Well, I'll tell you, Mr. Allen. Here's the deal. I do two podcasts. I do Hey Roma, which is not about pro wrestling, and I do Power and Glory, which is about pro wrestling with Roma. We have two podcasts we do together. And I normally don't say yes to all these podcasts. I did a podcast the other night. I think the guy had 424 followers. I'm doing as many podcasts as I can for people who ask me because that's just the way I am. Hey, will you do my? Yeah, okay. Hey, can you do my? Yeah, okay. Because who am I? I'm nobody. I'm not better than anybody, you know. So the thing about it is, I did a documentary, and so did Roma. And this documentary is going to maybe come out in the spring, I'm hoping.
Ah,
And it's huge, huge. And Roma looked at me and said, "Mancini, listen to me. After this documentary comes out, every single podcast that you do, I do, you got to get paid for it because this is a huge documentary. HBO Max.
cool, big deal.
Big deal, right? Big deal." He goes, "You better get paid for it." And I don't think he's wrong. Um, so until then, anybody that asks me to do the podcast, I get it in now because Rome is my one of my best friends. I don't want to piss him off. You know what I mean? So to answer your question, everybody's gonna know what everybody feels about Mr. McMahon when they watch that. When they
Okay.
watch that,
So this
that
spring will be aired on HBO this spring probably.
I'm hoping, I'm hoping, I'm hoping it's this spring. Yeah, but there's one thing I found out about going through this process. Hollywood is very slow.
Yeah, absolutely. But everything about also to publish a book like I do, or to publish a song, to go on TV, because I was in TV in Italy recently for my book. Everything about entertainment and art is really slow behind the scene. Maybe you can work a project a year before to see your project finally released. So that's typical waiting about it.
Uh,
But speaking something big, speaking about 460 some pounds, tell me something about King Kong Bundy because you had some
cried
match.
like cried like a baby when he died.
Yeah.
Cried so hard when he died. I was his debut match, March of 1985. It was 3 months before my 19th birthday. So I walk into Poughkeepsie. I look up at the board and it says Bundy v. Mancini. And again, I went up to Chief. I said, "Chief, who's Bundy?" I've never seen these guys. That guy over there. And I went, what? I said, Chief, I thought you loved me. He goes, you be fine, kid. I go, what's his name? He said, Chris. Bundy had canvas sneakers on, jeans, and a white V-neck T-shirt. And he was sitting in Poughkeepsie like this. And I walked up to him and I went, hey, how are you? I'm Mario Mancini. We're working together. He goes, I used to be a jobber here. I said, really? He goes, yeah, yeah. My name's Chris. I go, I called you Chris because I'm just really nervous. I said, listen to me. And now I'm looking at this mammoth person. I go, listen. Um, I'm gonna sell for you like the 4th of July. You know what I mean? I'm really gonna pour it on for you. It's gonna be okay. Without without looking at him, going, please don't be stiff. So this is another homework assignment. That match is on YouTube, his debut. And I go, what's your finish? He said, an avalanche in the corner. I said, okay. What kind of bump you want me to take? He said, just come out and fall on your back. I went, okay. So we lock up, and I'm like, oh, God. Okay. So we do the strongman stuff, grab his leg. He throws me off. He pushes me off a couple of times. We lock up. He pushes me against the ropes. He came down with a forearm in my chest. Oh, my God. He hit me with that forearm. I was like, oh, God. Man, did that hurt. Oh, God, did that hurt. We became really good friends. Really good friends. I got really excited before WrestleMania 3 because I had to do a stretcher for him. I had to do a stretcher for him. He grabbed the microphone and said, that's what's going to happen to any midget that gets in my way. If you can catch it, that match is really funny because if you can catch it, because we locked up, boom, and the ref goes, take it home. Chris goes, what? Boom, go home. What? He did a couple things, threw me in the corner, gave me the avalanche, couple splashes, whatever. And we were just genuine friends. We'd hang out in the dressing room, out in a, hotel restaurant, or, we were just friends. And then I got out in 92 and I walked away from it and never looked back. I didn't go on the independent circuit. I didn't do anything like that. I just left and never looked back. And I got a call in 1999 from a wrestling promotion 7 years later. And he said, I'd like you to work for me in the Westchester County Center. And I said, well, how did you get my phone number? I said, I appreciate the offer, but I haven't been in the ring in 7 years and my timing's going to be off and the bumps are going to hurt, stuff. I'm really not interested. He goes, I understand. I go, just out of curiosity, I go, who was I working with? He goes, Bundy. I said, when is it? I'll be there. So I walk into the Westchester County Center and there's Chris, big hug, started laughing. You know, that kind of hug where you laugh and you're rocking back like you're hugging him. Yeah. So we sit down. Just move on that avalanche. He goes, and cover me. I go, what? What? He goes, move on the avalanche. I'll take the bump and just cover me. I go, not doing it. He goes, why do you have to be an asshole? I said, I'm not an asshole. I'm not doing that. He goes, why do you have to be such a hardhead? He goes, I owe you, man. We never called it the WWF. We called it New York. He goes, I owe you for New York. You did so much for me, man. I go, we're friends. He goes, just move on the avalanche. I go, nah. I go, let's take the friendship out of it. Let's make believe we're not friends. I said, you ever see Mighty Mouse pin King Kong? I've never seen Mighty Mouse pin King Kong. You?
No, it's impossible.
No. I said, I'm taking the avalanche and you're getting the 5 count. He goes, fine. So now an intermission comes and he goes out for intermission. He comes back in the dressing room. He goes, I got to talk to you. I go, okay, what's up? He goes, I was out there for intermission for a while. I go, yeah. Signed a lot of autographs. I go, that's good. Made some money. Yeah. I go, I'm the heel. Well, they kind of liked me out there. I go, I'm the heel. He goes, yeah. I went, fine. So he went out there. He was the baby face. I was the
Cool.
heel. And anytime I was a heel, I'll say it, know it, take it to the bank. Anytime I was a heel, I emulated Don Morocco. Always, always emulated the Magnificent Morocco. So it always worked. So,
Awesome, awesome story. And by the way, you are a great storyteller. I think
oh,
you are really
thank
good to tell story. As a writer, I can say that you're an awesome storyteller. And tell
thank
me
you.
something about someone that maybe stole your possible game. Tell me something about Steve Lombardi, the Brooklyn Brawler.
You did your homework, huh, Mr. Allen?
Absolutely.
Did your homework. A few years ago, I was at a wrestling convention again in New Jersey, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and on my head to the left, and then I put my head forward, and I thought there was a fan looking for an autograph at my table. I looked up, and he goes, "You don't even remember me, do you?" I go, "Oh, I remember you, Lombardi. Sure did." And I was really hard on him, and he was confused. I was really hard on him. Um, how can I put it to you? I walked into the dressing room, and that action figure holding up, that's what he was wearing. And I grabbed Strongbow right away, and I said, "Chief, what the hell is that?" It's a gimmick. I go, hell, I haven't paid my dues. I haven't paid my dues, right? I haven't done everything they wanted me to do. I haven't been loyal, doing all these jobs, taking all these bumps. I haven't done that, right? I don't deserve a break, right? So he put his arm around me, as he did quite often, and he called me Mr. Mancini. He always called me Mr. Mancini. He said, Mr. Mancini, if you want to do what he had to do, to get that gimmick, I could set that up for you. No problem. Would you like that? I said, no, Chief, that's okay. I'll just keep doing jobs. That's fine. He goes, I thought so. So why don't you shut up? I said, okay, Chief.
This is a big. I think it's a kind of a shame because I think you're a great talker, and with a gimmick maybe you can shine. I think in a show.
I came up with something really good because I uh, I said I was going to be a professional wrestler in 1980 when I was 14. I said I'm going to be a pro wrestler, and I said that because my wrestling hero in 1980 announced his retirement. That would be our brother, Mr. Allen, from
Bruno.
Abruzzi, Italy,
Bruno.
Bruno Sammartino. So I wanted to be the next Bruno. I ended up being the next Frank Williams. So, you know, I I knew early on that I wanted to be a professional wrestler. And I just thought you would make it on your wrestling skill and your merit. I didn't know the business, obviously. I didn't know how corrupt and dirty it was. Um, so I went up to Strongbow and I said, I have an idea. I wonder if you can hear me out. He goes, yeah, of course. What do you got? I go, put me in with Piper. I'll take the beating of my life. I mean, Chief. I go, Chief, listen to me. A brutal beating. Brutal. Hard. He goes, okay. I says, as I'm down on the canvas, Piper's kicking me. He's putting the boots to me and spitting on me. And he's looking over at Bruno. And he's going, is this one of your people? This Guinea puts the boots to me. This Wop, he puts the boots to me. This Dago, he puts the boots to me. This greaseball, he puts the boots to me. Bruno comes running in and just chases him out of the ring. I go, Chief, I will live in the gym 12 hours a day if I have to. I get under Bruno's tutelage and we go after Piper. He goes, I understand, Mancini. It's already been done. Can't do it. I go, this hasn't been done, Chief. It's not been done. Italian to Italian, this hasn't been done. He goes, but it has, because I'm going to tell you what needs to happen and what Caesar, because he was never called Vince ever. His nickname was Caesar because he was he was the leader of the empire, the ruler of the empire. So his nickname was Caesar, and he answered to it. He goes, you see, Caesar's not going to go for that because it's already been done. What Caesar's going to want is to you to turn on Bruno in the end. That's where the money is. Larry Zabisco already did that, so it's not going to work. I go, I don't have to turn on Bruno. It could be, we can do it another way. He goes, no, that's what Caesar's going to want. He's going to want you to turn on Bruno. That's where the money is. And it's already been done. Good idea. Different, but it's already been done. I said, okay. Then I went up to Vince personally. And I said, put the hat on me. Put the tool belt on me. I'll go out as Super Mario Mancini. He goes, hey, I'm not paying Nintendo that kind of money, Mario. I go, okay. I had
So
the
that's
finish too, off the top rope. You jump off the top rope, you spread your legs as far open as you can, and you ass bump the guy in the chest. Boom, just like the video game. Didn't
that's
want to turn
true.
into that.
That speaking of the difference between the screen version of a character and behind the scene, that this guy, Gorilla Monsoon, this is in the ring attire version, so it's like in the WWF version.
Ah.
That's true. There wasn't really kind like he looks in the screen. It was like a intimidating guy behind the scene. That's true.
Yeah. I signed my contract with Gorilla Monsoon. Hey Mancini, come here. I'm like, yeah, what's up, Gino? He goes, I need you to sign this. I go, what is it? He goes, a contract. I go, do I need a lawyer to look at that? He goes, not if you want to sign this contract. Either you sign it or you don't. I go, where do I sign it? So I remember I became very good friends with the Magnificent Morocco, with Donnie, the monster we used to call him. He was going out to the ring one time, and I was going back to the dressing room. This was TV taping. And he pushed me in the aisle. He said, push me back. So I pushed him back. He pushed me again. He goes, push me back. So I pushed him again. He pushed me again. I pushed him back. Gorilla Monsoon opened up that door and said, Mancini, get your ass in here now. So I see Morocco comes back from his match, and I go, Monster, what was that all about? Why did you do that? He goes, right place, right time, Mario. You never know what'll happen in this business. I just tried to help you. And I'm like, wow, that's incredible. That was just incredible. That was amazing. Monsoon wasn't happy about it though. He had a big, he had a big Lincoln Continental. His license plate said kayfabe.
Yeah. Speaking of probably an unpredictable guy with the sad ending of his life, but you work it in because I Google it, I search. Tell me something about the Canadian strongman Dino Bravo.
I love Dino. Dino was quiet, just sat there and smoked his cigarettes. He really did. He just sat there, smoked. Quiet guy, soft spoken guy. I like Dino very much. Worked with him, loved working with him. It was great. Uh, you're talking about a kid that started wrestling in 19 watching wrestling in 1972 when I was 6. So, for me working with Dino Bravo, I was working with Argentina Apollo's tag team partner, Dino Bravo and Argentina Apollo, Dino had dark hair back then. He was a lot thinner. But I like Dino. I thought he was a nice guy. I never had a problem with Dino. It's fantastic.
And I know that you was babyface, but how was back then in the backstage the big superstar? In my opinion, this guy, before to show the last action figure of the show, I think that yes, because of him, the WWE now is what it is now. I think, but I think if you watch his match, you can recognize something a mashup between Chief J Strombo and Superstar Billy Graham. I'm talking about the Hulkster Hulk Hogan.
You can't bring up Hulk Hogan to Roma. Roma doesn't like Terry. I like him. Um, this is a true story, and this is what made me take steroids. This is a true story. I got done working in the ring. It was a TV, And I took a seat with the guys in front of the TV monitor after my match, and I was sitting there, and somebody whispered in my ear while I was sitting there like this watching the TV, and he said, You work too hard in the ring to look like that." And I went like this, and it was Hulk Hogan. And he walked away, and I went, "Screw this! I'm going on steroids. I mean, I got to show this guy some change. Maybe he'll step up for me, if he cares, you know." So, but that never happened. I did go on steroids, but that never happened. Um, he always called me Eminem. He's the only one. He never called me Mario, not one time. I'd high five him walking by him to say hello. Go, "What's up, Eminem?" I saw him at a wrestling convention. I said hello to him. He goes, "Eminem, what's going on?" He says, "Call me Eminem." Um, we listen. Uh, he's under a lot of scrutiny these days. Um, Roma doesn't like him because, and maybe as a wrestling historian, a wrestling fan, somebody who has got a great love for this business and a great respect for this business, maybe if you delve into it and make your own judgment, Roma says that anything that's ever had anything to do with Hulk Hogan, it had to benefit him, or he just wasn't interested in doing it.
Yeah.
It always had to be about him, you know. Do I think he should have dropped the belt to Bret Hart? Yeah. Yep. Because Bret, I love Bret. Bret, it was only a couple of years, brother, that Bret almost made me cry right in front of his face. I got a picture of it on my Facebook. Again, we were in a wrestling convention. It was me, him, and Roma that were just standing there talking. And he and Roma were talking. And I had my shirt, one of these shirts on.
Cool.
Um, this is, I was a jobber, but for the biggest effing wrestling company on the planet, right, in the world. So I had one of these shirts on, and Brett just looked over at me after he was done talking to Roma. He just turned and looked at me. He goes, "Mario." I said, "Hitman, how are you?" He goes, "You were good." I go, "What?" He goes, "You were good. You're good in the ring." I felt like Burt Lancaster walking toward the cornfields, and Shoeless Joe Jackson turns around and says, "Hey, kid." And I turn around and he goes, "You were good." The Field of Dreams, that scene in the Field of Dreams. And I said, "Thanks, Brett. That means everything to me." And I said, "That's pretty much the period at the end of my wrestling career. And from this day forward, nobody can ever say I wasn't, because you said I was." Brett wasn't this big muscular guy. God knows I wasn't. But we both had the same thing in common: the love for the mechanics in the ring. Should I have worked on the weights more? Did I do it too late? Yeah. If you look at my match against Bundy, you'll see a baby Huey, little baby fat kid. If you watch my match, which is the best TV match I ever had, against Playboy Buddy Rose, my traps are up to here. I'm thin. You could see the muscle defined in my body. So I was on steroids. I started powerlifting competitively from 1989 to 1992 in a 242-pound class, heavy squats, deadlifts, bench presses. But it was the in-ring, it was the wrestling. It was the wrestling that really captured my heart. And back in the 80s, it wasn't how thin you were or how many muscles you had. The first thing they asked was, can you work? Can you work? Because if you couldn't work, it didn't matter what you looked like. You're out. So, yeah.
So before to go to the final moments in the piano for your outro song, I want to share with you a consideration. I want to know what do you think about it. I think that a wrestler in some way is like an artist because if you're a writer, a musician, or a filmmaker, whatever, you start from nothing, just with a dream, and then you need to push hard yourself for your ambition, and you don't know what will happen because everybody has a fate somewhere scripted in your future. But I think that if you don't follow your dream, you will regret forever. So you need to follow the dream, but it's an hard journey. No, could be sometimes frustrated. Sometimes you have a good memories. But I think you can do other things. You are agree for that. That if you have a big passion, also for something difficult to do, you need to do that in any way because this is your life.
Well, that's why I went to law school. And it's funny that you say that because I didn't have it easy through law school. My ambition was far greater than my brain, but I made it through. And I remember walking through the library. It's funny that you lead me right into this. I was walking through the library and I heard my name called because my real last name is Inzatari, right? It says, Mr. Inzatari, can I see you for a minute? I said, sure. He said, you're a tenacious son of a bitch, aren't you? And I said, hey, Dean, you ever see your big toe in front of your face? And he goes, of course I have. I go, while you're on your stomach? And he goes, no. I go, I have. This is nothing. This is nothing. Law school. Not compared to what I went through. This is nothing. So, you know, the wrestler's mentality is in order for you to beat me, in order for you to make me quit, you're going to have to kill me. And if you kill me, you better make sure I'm dead. Because if I'm not dead, I'm coming back. And I'm coming right for you. That's the wrestler's mentality. It always has been and always will be, at least the guys I grew up with. You know, I remember when Fuji was stretching the hell out of me. He says, you don't say I give, I'm going to break your leg. I said, then break it. Break it. My second professional match was in West Warwick, Rhode Island, at a music theater, the West Warwick Music Theater, August 9th, 1984, against Dr. D. David Schultz. And he met me with a straight right, and he broke my nose in two places. A month later, I went to Hamilton, Ontario for TV taping. I looked up at the board, it said Schultz v. Mancini. I went up to Schultz and I said, you can break it again, and I'll get it reset. I took the stuffing out of my nose myself because Chief wasn't going to let me work because I could only breathe through my mouth. So I was like a magician. It wouldn't stop. They had me packed all the way up to my brain. It was green, brown, black. It was all kinds of colors.
Oh,
And this is on YouTube too. And we did say Merry Christmas this past Christmas, Schultz and I. And we love each other. He says, I love you, kid. I go, I love you too, Tom. This is on YouTube. He said, no, 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 calm down, boy. Calm down. I'm not going to break your nose again. In fact, I'm going to apologize to you on live TV. You're going to apologize to me for breaking my nose? Yep. You see when we go out there, boy. I go, okay. I'm 18. Okay. On YouTube, the minute you see him go like this, his arms like this, he goes, I'm sorry for breaking your nose. Shakes my hand. He slapped me clear across the face. Clear across the face. So we got through the match, and he was waiting for me behind the door. I walked behind the door, and he had a smirk on his face. And I just started laughing. I just started laughing, and he started laughing, and we hugged. And he gave me a little on the top of my head because he was 6'4". And he said, "You're a tough kid." The toughest guy in wrestling at the time told me I was tough. I was good. I was
it's a
good to
big
go.
knowledge.
But yeah, I'm good. So yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, yeah.
And now it's time for a song outro for you. And thank you so much because you need a song with this. You're a great storyteller, awesome storyteller. As a writer, I can say that you're an awesome storyteller because I think there is because everybody has some type of story in their life, but
Sure.
not everybody is able to tell to be good to tell the story. And you are good to tell the story. You have a lot of story, but you're really good as a storyteller. Is awesome. Listen you. I like listen you. Listen all
Thanks.
you because it's like to watch the scene that you describe. You're really good to describe the scene, the emotion, the colors of the skin, the
Yeah,
colors of the scene. Okay,
I appreciate it.
so let's do the song for you for
Sure.
Mario Mancini.
Um,
In wrestling history, there is a warrior. His name is Mario Mancini. He's tougher than David Schultz. He was a friend of Andre, and he has an awesome wrestling school with Paul Roma. So thank you, Mario, do this show together. So thank you, you are an awesome storyteller.
Fantastic.
This is you are fantastic, man. I hope to have you back in the future because I think in your you have a lot of story. I have a lot of action figure, by the way, also.
I have to tell you, I honestly, I have to tell you, I've done a lot of podcasts, a lot, and I enjoy doing them, and I go through them and I do them. But this one I enjoyed. This 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 was different. This was fun. I'm glad, I came home after the show ran late and I'm like, does this guy really want to still do this podcast? I don't know. Let me try the StreamYard and see if he still wants to get this done. And I'm glad that we did because I had a great time.
Thank you so much. And before to say goodbye, everybody watch this short fun video. Thanks for watching, my friends. And please smash that button, my friends. Please smash and subscribe. Help this channel to go to 100k subscribers, my friends. This is my dream. Please give me your love, guys. But also, guys, leave a comment and share this video with your friends, guys. But also, my friends, consider to become a patron to choose the next content of the channel. And also, my friends, become a member to be my guest in my show. That's right. And now you can see this video, or maybe this other video, or maybe another interview, reviews, unboxing, stop motion, tutorial, and more for you guys. So thanks for watching. Thank you so much. And subscribe, my friends. And so long, everybody. So long, my friends.